Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Really quick, let me remind everyone, Moby is trash, just in case you forgot. There we go. All right, and really quick, we've already got chat people. So hello, Boba Hicks, welcome.
Hello, Mark. How you doing, my friend? Nice you to join us. Thank you.
And then we've got a CJ. Hello, CJ. Welcome. Lovely to see you today.
Hello.
This is a little bit out of my normal stream time for normal viewers of the channel, but Stu is from the UK, and I wanted to line up, and he normally streams when I stream on Sundays, so special episode Saturday so that we could hang out. So
thank you. It's very kind of you. Thank you.
All right, and now everybody knows all about Moby to make that go away. So we'll get really quickly the coloring out of, well, I mean, we're gonna color, but I'm coloring a drunken Ponda Baba, aka Walrus Man, from a 1977 Kenner Canada coloring book, drawn really quickly by a Canadian art student who was told, we need a lot of pages really quick because we got to get some toys to these kids. And cool. Stu, what are you going to start with today?
Well, I'm going to start with R2D2 from the very same book that you got yours from. Funny that, isn't it? That's incredible. So the reason I've gone for R2 is because it's very basic, and I've not done colouring in for a long time. That was my wife, by the way.
Hello, Georgie.
Hello, my darling. How are you? Correct? Yes, Georgie. Yes.
Is that a Audrey 2 puppet with her?
It is, yeah. So me and my wife, we met just quickly. We met in musical theatre, darling, because we're thespians, you see. And so we did musical theatre, and we did a show together in 2012 called Rent. And Georgie loves puppetry. She loves all things puppetry. So she's actually played Audrey, the big plant. That plant that you see there, Georgie actually made that herself. So I'm bigging my wife up there. So
well, when I find the little Shop of Horrors coloring book, Georgie, I think I'm gonna get you on the show because I'm quite a fan of the. It's partly because I need sassy backup singers to appear behind me whenever I need to really make a statement.
And not trying to big my wife up too much, but she has a stunning voice when it comes to singing. Yeah, absolutely stunning. So yeah,
there we go. So she married you. You should definitely prop her up. So
she did. Yes, yeah, she did. And
we're never going to ever.
Thankful. Yeah,
I never discourage anyone for propping up their partner, spouse, like whatever the term du jour is. Hello, Mint with Card. Happy Saturday to you. Thank you for joining.
Hello.
Cool stuff. Really quickly, one of the things I wanted to do today is Stu.
Yes.
Is really close to hitting your 1,000 subscribers. So if you have not subscribed, please go. Let's get them over that 1,000.
Well, that's very kind. Thank you. I appreciate
and just for those wondering, that opens a YouTuber up to super chats, super thanks, little ways that people who watch and enjoy your content can give back to you, because most of us do this for free, and every little bit counts. So,
no, absolutely, and I don't really sort of like push my channel, so it's not what I'm about. I like to just do things and just take part and be involved in the community and stuff like that. So I'm very sort of like coy when it comes to my channel, and if people want to watch, they watch. If they want to subscribe, they subscribe, and I'm just happy doing stuff and meeting people like yourself.
Well,
so there you go.
I'm American. We're pushy, so I'm going to be a little pushy.
Okay, well,
if you have not,
that's fine.
But also, I like your channel because you're not one of the you're not one of. Sorry to any Star Wars fans that are going to feel targeted when I say this. You're not one of the toxic douchebags that really swim around in Star Wars fandom these days. I appreciate that. Like, I stopped loving Star Wars for a while because it was so horrible to like go into fan spaces. So,
see, when it comes to that, you've got three sets of fans. You've got your rational fans, which are the majority of people. Then you've got your racist fans, and then you've got your woke fans, and they're the minorities. And unfortunately, they're the ones with the loudest voices. So, the rational people try to have their say, and they just get overlooked because you've got your racist and your wokies. They're all tunnel visioned and trying to push their agendas and stuff like that. So, people like Star Wars. They like what they like. There's enough of it to go around. So, I'm just going to start coloring, by the way. So,
and I think what I've noticed about sort of the two the racist and the woke, is they also play into each other. So I think they
Of
both
course
get
they do.
worse trying to outshout the
Yeah.
other, and it's like, come on, guys, let's just let Star. I mean, like the thing is from the basic argument, Star Wars has always kind of been woke anyway. It's always been anti-racism. It's always been about fighting the
Yeah.
greater evil, and everyone getting along for the
I
greater
mean,
good. So
Star Wars is a simple story. It is about good versus evil. It's as simple as that.
yeah,
You know, you know, some people are evil. We don't need to see the reasons why they become evil and try and like turn it around and feel sorry for them and stuff like that.
right,
That kind of thing. It just is what it is. And it's always been inclusive as well. And Star Wars,
yeah,
you know, with the original trilogy anyway, it was for everybody. And I think that should be the case across the board. They should stop making Star Wars for certain sections of fans. Like, you know, you had a certain Star Wars which was for your LBGTQ plus community. Then you had another Star Wars which was for your kids. And then we've recently had Star Wars which is for adults, and or like more adult themed and stuff like that, where it's very kind of like political and stuff like that. So I think Star Wars should really be for everybody across the board, so anybody can sit down and watch it without
yeah.
having to worry about whether they're going to be offended by it or they're not going to like it. Do you know? You know, that's my take on it anyway. So
Well,
there you go.
I'm hoping after I have not watched the last few episodes of Andor, but I am hoping. I feel like there was a lot of I don't want to call it course correction because that's sort of an implication that,
Yeah,
and some Star Wars is just not for me, and I'm one of the people where I'm okay with that. I mean, that's always been going back to back in the day. Like I know George Lucas loved those Ewok movies. Not a fan.
yeah. No, I
There
wasn't
are
a
a lot of
fan.
people who love those though, and it's like good. Like I'm glad you have a Star Wars that you love. I personally enjoy the holiday special. I can only enjoy it
Mm.
about once a year at the holiday, but because it's quite a bit. Like there's a lot to absorb
I
in
mean,
there.
that was pretty trippy stuff, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
But
so it can be, like there's some gems in there, and of the feeling anytime you get B. Arthur serenading a bunch of Cantina aliens, that's art.
yeah,
No matter, and art should make you feel a little uncomfortable at times. So
yeah. I think my art's going to make people feel uncomfortable as well, to be honest with you. But there you go.
I think you'll
Um,
be
um, the thing is, what you know, this day and age, there is so much Star Wars,
yeah.
you know, compared to what we had when we were like growing up with the original trilogy, that people are going to like what they like. It doesn't
Hmm.
matter if they don't. I mean, to be, you know, called oh, you're not a Star Wars fan because you don't like this and stuff like that. Oh, behave.
Right?
Of course we are. You know, it's you like what you like,
Yeah.
and I've got nothing against people that like certain bits of Star Wars. You know, that's well within their rights. But what really gets me in this day and age is when you don't like something, you don't like it because you're a racist or you're a bigot or you're
Right.
something else.
But I
And
think that
grow up.
gets caught up
Yeah,
in the fact that especially on the internet, and the people
yeah,
screaming about new Star Wars the loudest are the people who are those things. So when you try to go in and have the nuanced conversations, like like the
yeah,
Last Jedi is a perfect example. Like there are
mm,
some really good. I am somebody who enjoyed the way it turned Star Wars on its head. Um,
okay,
I enjoyed the Last Jedi.
yeah,
Um, it did a lot of things we've never seen in Star Wars. I'm a fan of that. Does it necessarily tonally fit with the other movies? Not really. Is it the best Star Wars? No, but it was a different Star Wars. And then after the
it,
Force Awakens, I was like, I kind of want to see something different. And then we did.
yeah,
And I don't know that we need to see something different again, but I appreciated it. But what I just, and this is part of why I stepped away from fandom,
yeah,
was there was too much of the, it was way more about like misogyny. It was more like Rey is a terrible character because she's a woman. And even though that's not quite what they were saying, that reminded me really hard of when I was a kid on the playground being told in the 70s and the 80s,
yeah,
Star Wars is for boys, and like So it's, a lot of the same people who told me that in kindergarten are like, we were fine with Princess Leia. It's like, sir, you were not. You've always had problems with women. Let it go. Um, but that conversation drowned out discussing the merits of like what Rian Johnson wanted to do with that movie. So
Yeah.
instead of it being like where his shortcomings in Star Wars, again, it's a very good movie. It's not a great Star Wars movie, is how I've looked at it.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but at the same time, like, it's hard to have that discussion because it's gotten so caught up in by the racist, and then
Yeah.
the anti-woke
Well,
side of it really took over there, and it's
well,
just
look, you, no matter what walk of life you're in, no matter what you're doing, whether it's TV, whether it's sport, or any walk of life, you're gonna get your idiots at the end of
yeah,
the day that are racist. So what you do, you don't pander to them, you just ignore them,
yeah,
and you know, and but there you go. But see, I didn't like the direction Rian Johnson took
yeah.
the Last Jedi. If I'm honest.
No,
Um,
no, be honest.
but I think it's not a fact that people liked Ray because she was a female character. In a lot of people's opinion, and listen, this all, these are just opinions. They're not facts.
Yeah,
So people get facts and opinions mixed up with each other, and they, so it's an opinion of mine that Ray was a very poorly written character. And I think a lot of people sort of like feel like that and have that opinion. But that's not to say that was on the actress. I
right.
thought Daisy Ridley did a good job for what she had in front of her and stuff like that. You put that down to the writers and the directors. But unfortunately, like I said, in life, you get these people that are racist and they sort of like ruin it for everybody. And then at
Yeah,
the end of the day, you get the actors and actresses come out and you get the film studios come out and stuff like that. And basically brand the whole fandom or a certain generation of fandom as bigots or racists and
yeah,
stuff like that. And, I don't agree with that. I think they should just, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, they're paid to entertain, so to
yeah.
speak,
Well,
and whatnot.
like Kelly Tran, what's her Rose from that. I
Yeah,
mean, she
yeah,
literally had to get off the internet
yeah.
because
I mean,
that
I don't agree with
segment of
that.
it.
I don't agree with that at all
So
with the way
it's,
people treated her. So
and
yeah.
it's really difficult because the film studio does have to sort of address that. Like, if you're going to pay
Well, of
some,
course, yeah, yeah,
it's not like they make, like we all know that nobody doing Star Wars movies, not even Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford were making millions of dollars to come back for those. I mean, like, maybe they made, they might have, Harrison Ford probably made a little bit more than Carrie and Mark did.
yeah.
But we know that they're not making Jim Carrey at his heyday kind of money. So
No,
it's a lot, like, and people are like, it's still more than I make in a year. Well, that's good for you, Carl, but that doesn't justify jumping on the internet and being a complete asshole to
no,
fans
absolutely.
that
And
nothing
look,
pay.
I don't condone any of that behavior either. I
So
really don't. It's not right. It's not right. And the thing is, with this day and age, with the internet, it has given people the power, unfortunately, to express their hatred and their bile online because it's an easy thing to do. Basically, I'm so
RJ,
impressed
I'm
right now.
impressed you're multitasking.
Listen. I do the dishes and talk at the same time as well. So you pack that in. There's no
Really
need for
quick,
that.
hello Ria and hello
Hello,
Bradazzle. I'm gonna hope
hello,
I
hello.
pronounce
Thanks for
every
joining us.
time. Um, and this is a good. This is my favorite sort of takeaway that I've had. Thank you, CJ. It's hard to sift the criticism from the critique, and those are two completely different. And
The
I
thing is,
prefer critique, like, because
yeah,
that's thoughtful. You're thinking about why you don't like it, or why you're condemning something.
the thing is, I think people get criticism mixed up with hatred or racism and stuff like that. No, we're not. If it's constructive criticism, then I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I
Yeah,
know again people go OTT with that, so that's not right. But I think when someone the situation we've got now with Star Wars and a lot of the fandom and some of the studios and some of the actors and actresses that are doing these things is they are accusing the fans of being racist when they're not. It's actually fair criticism, and I've seen a lot of fair criticism, and I've seen people being like called racist because of it. You know, just because you're different skin color, just because you different gender, or you identify as a them or they or whatever, that doesn't make you immune from constructive criticism.
Yeah,
And
for
and to
sure.
use that as an like, so if people don't get criticism in life, how are they supposed to grow? How are they supposed to improve? And that's how I see it anyway. I was
Well,
born in the
what I
70s, so
yeah,
I'm very
same.
very old fashioned when it comes to those kind of values and stuff like that.
What I
I
will
think
say
I'm
though is
really.
I can tell when I personally, because I'm smarter than everyone. No, but I
Oh,
can usually
okay.
tell
Yeah.
when somebody's coming at it from a valid place, and like
Yeah.
I know when this I've the problem is I think, and this is more so with YouTube than Instagram. Instagram I have found is very easy to get the right people through because you have to
Yeah.
interact with content to get more. YouTube
Yeah.
pushes whatever is like other people are watching. And what I've learned is I don't ever click on a video about Star Wars on YouTube if I don't know the creator. I haven't
That's
watched
fair
their
enough.
stuff
That's fair enough.
before. On Instagram, I'm way more likely to stop and read a post and follow it to a YouTube
Yeah.
channel if see like what I consider like valid critique.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like where it's coming from a place of I want it to be this.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's also a lot because Instagram distills stuff. It's a lot easier for me to determine like, oh, this dude just hates all women. Like nothing he's gonna say I can take seriously. And I just don't interact with the post. I don't stop and say, oh, you're wrong, you're a dumbhead or whatever. I
Yeah.
just keep scrolling because if I interact with that, especially on Instagram, it's gonna keep giving me more of that.
Yeah.
Whereas if I stop and like something like you post where you're talking about the actual merit of things and I interact with that, it's going to find other people doing the same thing that are similar and send that to me. Instagram has been so pleasant once I figured that part of it out. Once
Yeah.
I stopped rage baiting, basically, and I also sort of realized nobody on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube are going to be like me arguing in the comments is not going to change their mind. So I just keep scrolling.
No, no, no. That's it.
It's like I engage with people I feel like, and which is part of why you're here. Cause like I've watched
Oh,
several of
thank
your
you.
videos where you sort of discuss all of this. I'm like, this is somebody actually having a smart conversation around these things. It isn't, I hate women. I hate black people. I hate the
No, I mean,
LGBTQI plus. Like it's a smart conversation
yeah.
about the
Look,
issues. And like, that's why you're here. I don't have assholes on the show. So.
no, no, fair enough. Fair enough. Most of the people I've spoken to, in because I do a channel sit. Well, I'm just going to be starting it back up again in a couple of weeks. Is what made Star Wars great, and a lot of the people that I've spoken to are my kind of like age generation
Yeah.
type sort of thing. So it's really interesting to hear their thoughts of their first experiences of Star Wars and what it was that made Star Wars stand out.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult to try and talk about the good of Star Wars without bringing up
Yeah.
the hatred and the other side of things. So I do touch on that very gently, and none of them have turned up and said, oh, we just woke up one morning and we hate women actors. We woke up one morning and we
Right.
hate black characters and stuff like that. That's not the case, you know. And it's probably very far from the truth. I don't know. I just, like I said, there's just absolute idiots no matter what you do in life,
Yeah.
and so unfortunately,
I think,
that's
and I think it's probably a lot more pronounced over here in the U.S. Over the
we're
last
not far
10,
behind. We're
15
not far
years.
behind.
We've had a lot more, and and it's, I grew up in the American South. These people have
Yeah,
always been here. They've just, over the last 10 years, they feel much more confident. The problem
yeah,
is there are a lot of people who are, what's the word? Feeling disconnected. I think that's the best way to say it. They feel disconnected from things. So when somebody comes
yeah,
along and is ranting, like the reason you're unhappy in life is there's some gay people, or this woman has taken your job as the savior of the galaxy. It's a lot easier for them to fall in because they're looking for a reason why they don't feel the connection. And it has nothing to do with
Yeah.
representation in movies. It has everything to do with we don't build communities like we used to. And once that clicked for me, that was when I was like, I'm going to get aside all of my social anxiety and all of my crippling fears, and I'm going to jump on the internet and do stuff and meet people and try to
Yeah.
create a space where people can come and hang out, and we can just create communities. And it's given me my love of Star Wars back. If I weren't doing YouTube, we would not be coloring Star Wars today. I met Brick. I think you've met Brick something through various things. And he and I were talking. It was through a Motu, Geek Dad Life channel, and it was
Okay.
mainly like Motu stuff. And
Yeah.
he did on like a May 5th impromptu live stream where we just got on and listening to other people, and then being asked why did you love Star Wars? I was like, I
Yeah.
still kind of love it, like, you know. And I still had all my Leia stuff is still up there. I don't know if you can see it, but right over here on the shelf
Okay.
is my little
Yep.
shampoo bubble bath Leia.
Okay.
Still has bubble bath in it. As soon as I have my studio set up, we'll do my collection video. We'll start scheduling that.
Yes.
I got some stuff I need to show the people, but
Well, there you go.
but that
I
was
mean,
what started giving.
yeah.
But I started talking to fans who love Star Wars and who were able to talk reasonably about what they didn't like about some of the newer stuff, and it just like woke me up to I was woke suddenly to the fact that it was, you know, like, you know, because for a while it's like if I had critiques, I just would also keep them to myself because I knew that the wrong person would show up in the conversation. And then I
Yeah.
was like, I just need to get more selective about the people I'm talking to and what groups I'm joining to talk about
Yeah.
stuff.
No. Yeah, I get that.
So
I get that. I mean, the thing is, look, I don't care whether you're gay, whether you're different color skin. You know, we all breathe the same air. We all bleed the same blood.
yeah,
That's not an issue. All I'm looking for in Star Wars is good, compelling storytelling.
yeah.
You know, well written stories, well written and well developed characters, and to stick with Star Wars lore and Star Wars canon. I mean, it's, you know, is that too much to ask? You know, and I know we haven't had that in a lot of stuff of recent times, but it doesn't stop me from hating Star Wars. I'm not like saying,
Right.
oh, I hate Star Wars. You know, it's I just don't like what they've done with it. I mean, there's Star Wars that I do like and still like, you know, like the original trilogy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the question I'm going to ask you, the original trilogy. Here's me asking a question on your live stream. So
This is
okay.
hanging out. Ask away.
So the original trilogy set the standard so high, and the expectation from fans is that big because of how good the original trilogy is.
Right.
Do you feel that is the issue with Star Wars at the moment, where the expectations are so high and some of the fans' expectations haven't been met?
I think so. I think it's twofold. One, I think it's a little bit of that, but I also think, especially I'm like, you know, I'm old enough that I've seen every Star Wars film in the theater 7 times, including each of the special edition releases. And the first 5 times I saw Star Wars, it was not called A New Hope or Episode 4.
Yeah.
So I'm that old. Like I saw OG Star Wars. Like I was an early bird kid.
Yeah.
We sent away for the early bird kit. I did not get my toys till later. My first Christmas was some Star Wars puzzles, some the Dip Dot set, and the Planked poster.
Okay.
That was Star Wars 1977 for me. I was like 3. I think there is that side of it, but I think the other side of it, and this is something I kicked into during when the first Phantom Menace came out, right?
Yep.
There is a magic that happened for our entire generation in 1977, 1980, and 1983, whichever was your first Star Wars. When you sat in that theater, and you get the 20th century fanfare, and
Yep.
then you get like the logo flies across the screen, and you get the crawl, and there's this music. There's a feeling that invoked immediately,
Yeah.
and I think a big part of it's I hate to do it because it almost minimizes, but it's almost like drugs, right? You first time you do a drug and you get the fix, your first
Yeah.
real high, like you can never recapture that. And I think
Yeah.
to a degree that's the problem with Star Wars.
Yep.
Whichever your first one in a theater was, that is your big moment. And I think there are a lot of kids where the prequels are now getting way more love than they got in the day because that was
Yeah.
all their first Star Wars in a movie, and now that they're 20, 30, they're now like having that nostalgia that we were having in 1995, 97, etc.,
Yeah.
where we kind of left the prequels like, wow, because after the music, once the movie starts, it's never going to be for me Star Wars. It's never going to be for the kid who Empire Strikes Back in 1980 was their first Star Wars. You're never going to recapture. There's no putting the genie back in the bottle and re-experiencing it. So
Yeah.
I think no matter how good any Star Wars is, it's never as good as your first Star Wars. So it's always going to be
Well,
diminishing
yes, yeah,
return.
that's true. That's a
For
good way
me,
of
the
looking at it.
key has been, especially the last few years, a big part of why I've really leaned into the coloring is, and I mean, this could be a mental disorder, but when I'm coloring things that I remember that I had as kids or reminded me of
Yeah.
things from a kid, I can smell what the house we lived in at the time. I can remember that.
Yeah.
I spent enough time looking at like my vintage 1979, 78, 79 large size Leia. I can remember what the light looked like Easter morning when she was in my Easter basket.
Oh, cool.
And then I called my aunt, who was, like she and I took her hair out of the star puffs out, and then spent the rest of Easter trying to get the hairdo back, right?
Yeah.
So it's the nostalgia of it, but it's also sort of the connection to better times. And I think to a degree, no Star Wars that comes will ever be as good as that first Star Wars. And I think a lot of people, especially of our age, aren't able to admit that because it almost feels like you're admitting to a failure.
Uh,
Like you're somehow saying life is never going to be as good as it was that one time in, for me, 1977. But that's not true. It's just different things are going to hit differently. But for some of us who have wrapped so much of our identity into Star Wars, like my hobby time for a long time was Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars.
yeah.
Um, it's harder to sort of come to that place. So again, once I sort of all this started clicking in during the pandemic and talking to people like Brick, watching
Yeah.
channels like yours where people are having these conversations, I just realized it's like if I don't like a newer Star Wars, like I know people get sort of weird when I say this. I didn't necessarily care for most of The Mandalorian, even season one.
Okay.
Some of it felt like fan service. Some of it was good, but it
Yeah.
wasn't my Star Wars. But then I watched all these people who love it. I'm like, well, there's something there for them, so let them have their Star Wars. Like, it's okay if I'm not all Star Wars is for me. And it helped. Like, it helps sort of to let go and focus on the part of Star Wars I do love.
No, that's
You
that's
know,
fair enough.
and not
That's fair enough.
everyone's able to do that, but I think that's for me what I find the conclusion I finally came to. Like,
Yeah.
and no matter how much I love Star Wars and share my love of Star Wars, it's never gonna make somebody love Star Wars the way I do, and it's never gonna, Lucasfilm, Disney, whoever, whatever mega corporation owns it in 20 to 30 years, they're never going to be able to give me Star Wars like 1977 when 3-year-old me like had that moment of, oh my god. And then the first time I saw Leia and I'm like, who the hell is that? That's who I want to be, her. Like,
That was a strong
so
female character. That was a strong
yeah.
female character. That's what she was.
And it wouldn't have been with anyone else because if you've seen any of those if you've seen any of the other rehearsal of the auditions that have been out floating around the internet, it's like
Yeah.
from the get-go, Carrie Fisher was just, she delivered that dialogue as if it were like what it needed to be. So I just, And the same with Mark Hamill. I've seen other auditions by other actors who are much, no shade to Mark Hamill, but much better actors than Mark Hamill ever was,
Yeah.
or ever is, or ever will be. But he was Luke. Like, it just,
Because when they read that script, when in their auditions, they read it as if they believed it. They
yeah,
read it, and because they, although they might not have believed in it personally, that's the mark of a good actor.
yeah,
Your job is to make the audience believe what you are saying. And if you don't truly, it doesn't matter how good an actor you are, if you don't deliver those lines as if you believe in those lines and what you're saying,
oh
then
yeah,
you're not going to convince the audience. And that's exactly what Harrison Ford did.
yeah,
That's exactly what Mark Hamill did. And that's exactly what Carrie Fisher did. And I know a lot of the writing was cheesy. We know that. And it was pretty much the same within the what was it, the prequels.
yeah,
I mean, it was very, very cheesy dialogue. And look, listen, nothing wrong with Hayden Christensen as an actor, nothing wrong with Natalie Portman as an actor, but I feel they kind of struggled and didn't believe in what they were saying, so it looked as if they were wooden and it didn't come across that well. But then that's down to George Lucas, because he
yeah.
was a director, and as much as a great storyteller, and he got what he wanted, he wasn't the greatest of directors, unfortunately.
No, he's a
So that
visionary.
plays yeah,
He's a visionary, but he's not a
yeah,
very good director. Sorry,
no,
George.
absolutely.
And I think well, I'll get back to the prequel side of it in a second.
Sure,
I think
sure.
what's really important is if we look at the original three movies, the one that emotionally hits deepest, that has the most, other than the I don't know where you get your delusions, laser brain. The rest of Leia's, sort of sarcasm, her quips, if you will, land. But a lot of
Mm,
that is George Lucas was in America and they were in England at Elstree Studios with Irving Kershner, and
yeah,
he was letting them ad lib. That whole like "I love you, I know" that was not the script. Was "I love you too." He was
yeah,
supposed to say "I love you," and George was like, "No," until he watched it and he had to admit this was better.
yeah.
Most of Lucas wasn't on set for almost that entire movie.
Mm,
And I think it's really important that when the actors and the director were sort of given sort of this room to like play with the characters, to play with the dynamic, to rework the dialogue a little bit so that it felt more authentic. I
yeah,
mean, Star Wars will always be my favorite Star Wars,
yeah,
but Empire is the better film. It's probably the best film of all of them.
yeah.
And but I think it's, and Return of the Jedi is a little better, but Lucas was on set. He was far more, and you have a lot more of the woodenness. Carrie Fisher, she's Space Mom will always be my hero in all the ways. But some of Leia's dialogue comes across as like bad daytime soap opera.
This is in
Someone
Jedi.
who loves
Is
you.
this in
Yeah,
Jedi?
Jedi. But Lucas was on set more. He was way more involved. He had another director, but
Yeah,
he was
Richard
there.
Marquand. Yeah,
So I think the one movie where Lucas has the least involvement, being the strongest, says great story, great everything. But when
Empire
you get a
Strikes Back.
director in there who knows how actors need to
Yeah.
act, so
Well, because when Lucas did Star Wars, he wrote it. He kind of like co-produced it with Gary
yeah,
Kurtz, and he directed it as well. And it was too much for him, so he said, "There's no way he's going to do that
yeah,
again for the next movie." It's interesting to hear that when Irving Kershner, his agent, put it to him and said, "Did you want to do Star Wars? The sequel?" He was like, "No, no, no."
yeah,
And his agent was like, "What? Why not?" And he goes, "Well, because it's Star Wars. You've already got it. You're not going to beat it."
yeah,
And then he sort of like come around and he did it. And he said in that documentary, Empire of Dreams, he wanted it to be funny, but he wanted it to have humor, but he didn't want it to be a comedy. He wanted it to
yeah,
have like a love scene, but he didn't want it to be a love story and
yeah,
stuff like that. And I think, and this guy goes very much under the radar. Gary Kurtz, he was I think, very prominent in Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back.
yeah,
He was by George Lucas's side. He was sorely missed in Return of the Jedi. Now, originally, I think it was that George Lucas wanted Steven Spielberg as the director, but
yeah,
because Lucas had left the Directors Guild,
Yeah.
he couldn't have Spielberg because Spielberg was still part of the Directors Guild at that time,
Yeah.
and he went for Richard Marquand, and I think he was very much out of his depth. So then that's why
Oh, yeah.
George Lucas sort of like stepped in and was on set more, and because he had a like a not a falling out, but a disagreement or whatever you want to call it in creative differences and stuff like that, or artistic licensing, or whatever you want to call it, with Gary Kurtz. That's why Gary Kurtz wasn't
Yeah.
in Return of the Jedi, so he got another producer in. So I think, as much as I know a lot of people like Return of the Jedi, and it was the first film that I ever saw in the theater,
Yeah.
I feel out of the three, it is the kind of the weakest one of the three, even though I'm loving the film, and it's still a lot better than a lot of the stuff that we've had
I think
recently.
there's a cynicism, and I think this is also forgotten often. When Return of the Jedi was happening, George Lucas was going through a pretty bitter divorce with Marcia Lucas.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that in more recent years has gotten proper spotlight, if you will, is that Marcia Lucas's edit of A New Hope, let's just call it
Yeah.
that for easiness. Her edit of it is what saved that movie, because I have seen somebody at one point, I don't know if it's still there, at one point YouTube had the original cut up before she had gone in, where scenes went too long and it felt stilted, and she literally went in and she just cut everything, made it quicker, made it faster. I think that's when they cut the original scene with Biggs and like Luke on the planet, and just gave it that quickness. And I think if we're gonna, for me, I with Return of the Jedi, again, I enjoy it. It was fun at the theater. I think my critical analysis of it in later days, that sort of shows when people sort of complain about the sequel movies not having much of a, like, not having a plan or a structure. Return of the Jedi for me feels like that.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have Return of the Jedi. He didn't have any, he had Star Wars, and they really cut up the script. There's sort of this popular myth going around that he had these movies written and the first half became Star Wars and the rest of it became the rest of the trilogy, but that's not what happened.
Okay.
So I have the Unweighted Screenplays, which was released in like 1995, 96.
Yeah.
And so what happened was there was no sequel. He had, before they knew what was going to be ahead, he had Alan Dean Foster write Splinter of the Mind's Eye, which would have been a cheap, quick, easy sequel using most of what they had built. And only used Luke and Leia and the droids, because he didn't have, Harrison wasn't under contract yet, but Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill were. And then when it became a hit and the other movie was going to happen, he got Lee Brackett. They came in, they did a script. She died before he could complete it, so most of her stuff is lost. And then they brought in, oh gosh, what's his name? Oh God, I can't believe I'm spacing. They brought in the guy who wrote most of wrote the screenplay for Return of the Jedi. He and his son did the Solo movie.
Oh, Lawrence Kasdan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So he came in and, picked the notes, and he and Lucas hashed out what became Star Wars. But again, it wasn't the original, A New Hope. Lucas wrote that script. He and his, Francis Ford Coppola, all of his friends, sort of ripped the script up and helped him fine tune it. Then his wife saved the movie in editing. And then, and so with Return of the Jedi, obviously the Jabba the Hutt, the ending with Han and Carbonite came about during the writing of Empire Strikes Back. So the whole rescue of Han Solo was brand new. Up until like the very final draft, Luke's sister was on another planet training to become a Jedi, and then at the end of the movie, she was going to come in and join Luke to stop Vader.
Yeah.
So Leia didn't become his sister until very late in the game. And originally Leia wasn't on Tatooine. Luke and the others would go to save Han, while Leia and the rebels are on the moon of Endor. So the whole thing with her and Wicket the Ewoks is at the very beginning of the movie. And then
Okay.
halfway through, after they save Han, they show up on Endor. And basically, they get captured by the Ewoks. She shows up, frees them. So, so anyway, everyone who's like, oh, George Lucas had a plan. He did not have a plan. It worked out a little bit better for him than it did with the sequel films. And that's why, like, he didn't, even when after Empire, like, and I'm going to be really honest, the laziest resolution to a love triangle ever is like, oh, he's my brother, never mind. So,
yeah. Oh, it's interesting. I didn't know that. Well, there you are. You learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, like, again, like it was, and it's really interesting to sort of hear all of that because it makes it a lot more dynamic, like the making of the original trilogy, because that's really not. And oddly, the book is out of print, and a lot of that's not really referred to in the newer stuff. So it's almost, I hate to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but it's almost as if George like wants a really specific mythology around the creation of that original trilogy that he doesn't necessarily want all of that out there, because I haven't found it referenced really in any of the newer books. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, I will. Once we're off stream and stuff, I'll send you. I'm sure Amazon UK would have used copies because it is out of print, but it's really. You would probably love it as much as I do. I reread it regularly because I'm like, let me read that. At some point, I'm going to do a story. Let's see. Oh my gosh, sorry guys. I get to talk in Star Wars and forget the chats. Again, I warned Stu. Hello, Derek. Happy birthday to my friend Derek.
Oh, is it your birthday? Oh, happy birthday, Derek. Hoping you are having a lovely day.
It looks like Georgie is doing well with our chat, so very good. And then Andrew of Gatey's Toys, who will be my guest tomorrow.
Ooh.
Third act characters, exactly. So it wouldn't have worked. He's completely sloshed. I partly picked it because Drunken Ponda Baba, nothing.
Can I just say with Mark Boba Hicks, he is my co-host for a series that I do every now and again called Toy Photographer Showcase, and he is such a lovely guy. I've known him since the like 2020, and he was one of the very first people I managed to get to befriend on sort of like social media, YouTube and stuff like that. And I love doing the Toy Photographer Showcase with him because he speaks very well, and he's just such a great guy, and he's got a fantastic collection, and he takes some really decent toy photography himself, and you can find him on Instagram, Boba Hicks. So yeah, great guy, Mark. So yeah, what a top guy.
Well, Mark, hello, Rowdy Riles.
Hello.
Yes, please smash that like. That's what I forget to tell people. Smash that like. Well, Boba Hicks, at some point, let's chat, and you should come on and we can color some Boba Fett.
Yeah,
I've got a lot of Boba Fett. So, anyhow, yeah. So anyway, when people are like, the sequels had no plan, George Lucas didn't really have a plan either, guys. He just wanted to make money, and which is why sort of Return of the Jedi sort of recycles Star Wars and then adds cute teddy bears at the end so they could sell toys.
But didn't George Lucas want it to be Wookiees, but he didn't have the money for the budget?
So the original script before it became before it became what the movie that eventually became A New Hope.
Yeah.
At the end of it, the rebels are assisted by the Wookiee planet and stopping. Like basically, Yavin 4 was full of Wookiees. It was the easiest way to say it. It was a different planet name. The planet names jumped all over in that original screenplay. Because at one point Alderaan was like the Imperial planet, and then it became.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, and then it got changed, and then. Yeah, originally it was Aqua. Like Leia was from the planet of Aqua, and originally there was no Leia.
Oh, is it where that Mark Hamill had to do that awful dialogue and say about, and he still remembers it to this day, doesn't he? Something to do with Aqualius 6 or whatever it is. Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Wow.
during filming, Mark Hamill has talked about this more recently, but during filming, um, he was still Luke Starkiller. It wasn't until after they
Yeah.
finished filming that he had to go in and redub, the Luke, I'm Luke Skywalker, I'm here to rescue you. Darth Vader was not Luke's father until the writing of Empire,
Wow.
because originally Vader was an Imperial bureaucrat with a much small. He was basically one of the Death Star doinks.
Yeah.
This is now the ultimate power. Dude, stop. You're embarrassing us. Your words are going to come back and haunt you very soon, Marty. Um, but so yeah, and then it's just he started compressing, and then there was a Dark Lord of the Sith, so he
Yeah.
just started mashing characters together to get a more concise story. And then when it was
Wow.
time for Empire, and sort of Luke's, if I remember correctly, and it's been a while since I've reread, but it starts with the character Anakin Starkiller living on
Okay.
The planet that becomes Tatooine with his kids, and a
Yeah.
Dark Lord of the Sith kills one of the kids. So it's him and his two sons, Deke and Wendy, Windy,
Yeah.
and eventually that sort of all evolves into like Luke. And at one point, Luke was a girl, because Lucas was all about sort of mixing it up and playing with it,
Yeah.
and there was a princess, but she was much. And then at one point, the entire plot was the Hidden Fortress by Akira Sawa,
Yeah.
where the princess is disguised as a peasant girl, and the droids are like the bumbling peasants that are there with her, and Obi-Wan is her protector, which again gets recycled for Phantom Menace
Yep.
with Padme and Sabe and Keira Knightley as then Timu, Amidala, and now like for a while there, Keira Knightley's career was much better than Natalie Portman's. But so like, and that's sort of the thing, and that's kind of one of the things I have liked with Dave Filoni, the Star Wars he is doing. Even when I don't necessarily enjoy it, I really love that he is willing to sort of scavenge through all of the different Star Wars stuff and like bring in
Yeah.
elements that those of us who have been complete and utter nerds about this stuff from like, you know, from day one, where it's like we've
Yeah.
sought out, like he's brought back elements and he pays homage to it. And,
Mm.
that's, people talk smack about Kathleen Kennedy. I will say the one time I met her, I'd also had some champagne and some wine, so I was probably a bit of a geek, and probably awkward, but she was pretty pleasant. And she was just like, I know people talk shit, but basically the way I think she looks at it is like she's not a creative and she knows it. And she's
Yeah.
way more of like, and I think a lot of I think she takes a lot of bullets instead of coming out and saying, I just let them do whatever, it sucks, let's move on. Because Andor,
Mm.
again, I haven't seen the last three.
They are the
Nobody
best
spoil it.
three. They are the best three. I won't give anything away, but they are the best three of season 2, without a shadow of a doubt.
But the director came out and said, like, I would go to her and she'd like, are you sure about that? She would challenge him on stuff and make him fight for his story. But he basically said, like, it's as good as it is, and it happened because she fought for it and fought with me whenever necessary. And I think the problem is that some of these directors, I'm hoping, however long Kathleen Kennedy stands around, she goes more of that route instead of. I think people who aren't necessarily the creative side sometimes defer too much to creatives.
Mm.
So what I'm hoping is the story he told about her behind the scenes with Andor becomes her norm, where she pushes back a little bit more, makes them fight for their story, and makes them improve it when it's not
I
right.
I see, I didn't mind the Andor story. I thought it was I thought it was probably some of the best. I mean, I've heard some people call it like it's a classic. It's not. It's
Yeah,
good. But it's not as good as the original Star Wars. But when it comes to Dave Filoni, because of him and George Lucas doing the Clone Wars, the animated series, which I
Yeah.
absolutely love, that's made me look at the prequels in a whole new sort of like different light. And I appreciate the prequels a lot more, because with the Clone Wars, you got, I mean, Dooku, you didn't get much of a character arc or character development, a story arc with him within the two movies that he was in very briefly. But you got a lot of that in the Clone Wars. It's the same with Padme. You flash out, you get more character development and stuff like that. And I kind of like that. And it has made me appreciate the prequels a lot more. And with Andor, when Rogue One first came out, it was like, who are these characters? I don't know them. It's one movie, so it did seem a little bit rushed. And it took a couple of times for me to appreciate it. But now seeing Andor, you do appreciate the characters a little bit more, because you understand the story and you understand where he's come from and stuff like that. So it puts a whole different take on Rogue One, which is, for me, probably one of the best Star Wars that Disney have done, along with Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2. And
I'm probably in the minority, but I really like Solo. Like, I know a lot of people didn't care for it, but I thought it was fun. It was
a fun movie. It wasn't
trying too hard to be like a saga. It was just like, let's tell a fun story.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of the actress from Game of Thrones.
Emily Clark.
Yeah, I almost called her. I used to call her Dragon Tits, but I'm going to move past that. Not particularly nice. Dear. She's a lovely, lovely lass. But I'm not a huge fan of her, and it's just, some actresses don't vibe with you. It's not like Moby, where he's done something that he deserves my scorn. Just not every actress is your vibe.
No,
so I didn't care for that, like her character. I liked the character arc, though. I liked that even at the end, she was way more interested in self-preservation and power than she was.
Yeah.
I think it was a nice juxtaposition to like Han Solo's journey.
Yeah.
And like, does sort of explain why he's so cynical when he does meet Luke and Leia. It was a fun movie, though. Some people are like, I wish we got more.
I mean, I think it didn't, because it came out after The Last Jedi, and because
within a few weeks.
Because it suffered because of that. I think it suffered because of that, because The Last Jedi got so much negativity. I think a lot of people kind of like checked out of Star Wars and said, well, that's it. You're not watching that anymore. So, and I think as well at that time, Disney were trying to do too much too soon. And it was a case of quantity over quality. I mean, they wanted to do a movie every year, for goodness sake. I mean, with the original trilogy, I keep harping back to it, but you had to wait 3 years. And I know the way films are made are different now and stuff like that, and it's a lot quicker with the editing and stuff like that, and with all the special effects. But then you had to wait 3 years with the prequels as well. I think with the sequel trilogy, it was 2 years between each movie, and then you had like episode the Force Awakens, then you had Rogue One, then you had The Last Jedi, then you had Solo, then you had The Rise of Skywalker.
I think for me, the other side of some of the issues, and this is personal, like other people will disagree. I dislike that they're now like Star Wars is Christmas. It's like, no, Star Wars is May. It's always been May.
Yeah.
Each of the original movies, and like, people are like, no, it's like Disney is doing that so it doesn't interrupt their so they don't have their Star Wars competing with their Marvel movies. And that frankly, that's the only thing Disney has done that I will turn into an angry, toxic fan bitch on the internet about, is this whole like trying to rebrand them as holiday movies. It's like, no, they're May. It's a summer.
It's always been May. It's been May. Yeah.
Then you spend all summer playing with the toys before you have to go back to school. You can't buy toys in time for Christmas if the movie drops 2 weeks before Christmas, people.
No, that's it. Absolutely. And you made a comment earlier saying that Star Wars was for boys. Well, it kind of was. That's that's the audience that George Lucas was aiming for. But like I say, it's for everybody. And he wanted it to be, because you had your fairy tales, didn't you? You know, Disney
Yeah.
were doing their fairy tales and stuff like that with the Disney princesses and whatnot. And George Lucas wanted it to be like a fairy tale with, you know, you had a princess, you had wizards and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and you had evil forces and stuff. So it was kind of like a fairy tale for boys. And it kind of it kind of makes me wonder how Disney have managed to drop the ball in certain aspects with Star Wars, because they were very good at telling fairy tales, because
Yeah.
most of their movies were all fairy tales. So you know, I just, yeah, because didn't George Lucas originally have the sequel movies penned out, and they sort of like didn't listen to him and went their own
He
route
did. He
along those
did,
lines.
and then
Yeah.
he sort of dropped what they were going to be, and like I think people will be much happier with the Disney.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
George's idea was that the three sequel movies would mostly take place in the microscopic world of the midichlorians.
Oh Jesus.
So we were going to get down to microscopic level and go discover it. You know, like you can't blame Disney guys. He gave them a
Well,
plan,
no,
and
you can't.
they
But,
looked at it and
yeah,
they were like, "Ooh, ooh, no."
yeah,
Because
yeah.
I heard that, and I'm like, everyone's least favorite part of the prequels is so much so that we don't hear about it after the Phantom Menace, and yeah, he wanted to go into the microscopic world, and I can't. Like, I'm sorry, George. Like that to
No,
me
I think that
was
would have been a hard watch. That would have been a hard watch, I think.
yeah. Like speaking about which, you know, when you hear the way he described it, you're like, oh, everything would have it would have just been basically like what is that movie that was is it In and Out where it's like all about the emotions of the character in the head? Like it
Yeah.
would have been pure CGI. And like one of the things that I did truly to this day, like my overall favorite thing about the sequel trilogy is how much practical effects they moved back toward and how they really minimized digital
Yeah, yeah.
CGI characters. They
I,
did
I,
quite
I
a bit.
I like that aspect, because they went back to the old way of doing things, which,
Yeah,
because I found the prequels were too over reliant on CGI. So yeah, look, listen, I can't fault the cinematography of the sequel trilogy. I mean, there's
yeah,
some fantastic shots and some fantastic settings. I love the fact, like you say, they went back to the old way of doing things with the sets and you know, and stuff like that, which made it. And the thing is, with sets and stuff, it makes it look more lived in. It's more believable, because an
yeah.
actor can see it, and they can play on that and stuff like that. So I like that. I just wasn't overstruck with the story, if I'm honest. But
Yeah, I mean, it
you know,
definitely,
there you go.
again, most of the story, I mean, The Force Awakens, I was a little disappointed that it was like A New Hope 2.0, where it's
Yeah.
like, that's called Return of the Jedi, guys. Um, so you know, like, again, I've got my critiques of them. I'm not ride or
Yeah.
die. You know, like, these are the best movies ever. My niece, who was, let's see, she was like 6 or 7 when they came out. She adores
Okay.
the sequels. She's like 16 now. But like for Christmas that year, she wanted Ray stuff. So I think it'll be interesting if we're all still here in 20 years to see what the kids who went to these movies sort of what their reactions are. Because again, like the prequels,
Well, this is true. Yeah.
like the prequels are suddenly getting a reconsideration. And I rewatched. I didn't go see it 7 times because it's the same movie. So technically, I've now seen Revenge of the Sith 9 times at a theater. Same with Attack of
Wow.
the Clones and Phantom Menace.
Wow.
Um, although I did see the Phantom Menace 3D 7 times. That was a
Well,
choice I should not have made.
that's dedication for you. That is
Yeah,
dedication.
that was when I was like, maybe I need to let go of this weird OCD quirk of mine.
Yeah.
Um, but I went and saw all the sequels and Solo and Rogue One. But I will say that Revenge of the Sith was much better these last few weeks when I went and saw it than it was when I first went to watch it. I still can't forgive the death of Padme to bad character writing. I just will never get over that, George Lucas. She
Yeah.
died of a
Yeah.
broken heart and domestic abuse, George. Domestic abuse. Like it's the
Yeah.
most
Yeah. True.
boring death of a major character you could have given us, George. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. What I will say is that in the sequel trilogy, not the sequel trilogy, for goodness sake, the
The
prequel trilogy,
prequels.
I felt Anakin had succumbed far too easily to
Hmm.
Palpatine. But then after watching it after a certain amount of time, and then actually watching the movies and then taking proper notice of what's being said, and Palpatine was seducing him from the very start. He's
Hmm.
from the very start. So it wasn't just in one movie. It was over the course of, well, I wouldn't say the first movie. You knew he was going to be doing something.
Yeah.
The way he said, "I'll keep an eye on you" and stuff like that. But then all the way through the second movie and the third movie, he was very much on his case, and he was sort of like seducing him then. So it was over a period of time. So it wasn't as quick as I thought it was. And because, when I watch a movie, I watch it for the action and stuff like that. And I don't really sort of like pay attention to the story. That's why I need to watch something over and over again. And mainly
Yeah.
that's to do with my age as well, because I've forgotten what happened about 5 minutes ago with certain things. But, but yeah, no, like I say, my appreciation for the sequels, not sequels, bloody hell, the prequels. Good God,
Prequels.
the prequels. They've grown a lot more with the Clone Wars for sure.
But I think the
Definitely.
Clone Wars help because now once you see all of the years between Attack of the Clones
Yeah,
and Revenge of the Sith, and then you see
yeah,
more interactions with Anakin. You see more things going
that's it.
awry.
Yeah, yeah,
Like more missions where he's failed. The way he fails Ahsoka, like, really helps sort of put it into perspective, right? Like he fails her.
yeah,
It's really evident from how things end with him and her, with the whole trial of Barriss Fee. I think that's how you say her last name. I always mess that
yeah,
up. That whole trial, like, there's this whole like, there's way more subtext that we're given through the Clone Wars that make it much less sudden. Um,
yeah,
and suddenly it makes more sense. I think it's
yeah,
also some of that is Star Wars storytelling because A New Hope obviously takes place, like maybe over two weeks at most, right? Like, like from the time Leia's ship is under attack to the point they get to Yavin 4, it's maybe been like a week and a half, 2 weeks tops, because we don't know
yeah,
how long, everyone hung out on Tatooine before like going to Mos Eisley. We don't know quite how long hyperspace took. That could have been 2 or 3 days. We don't know.
yeah, yeah,
Which is fine. Like, I don't need exact times. Death Star is like a day. Like, they were on the Death Star like a day tops.
yeah,
Then they get to Yavin 4. Everything goes really quick. Empire Strikes Back, like a couple days on Hoth. Then, like, let's say, like maybe a month where, like Luke's on Dagobah, Han and Leia are escaping. Like a
yeah,
month seems reasonable, right? They're on
yeah,
Bespin maybe a week. Let's say like a week before the Empire arrives on Bespin.
yeah,
Return of the Jedi, it's the same thing. It's like a couple days at Jabba's palace, maybe a day or two between leaving
yeah,
Jabba's palace and then going to Endor. So like we're talking most of these movies cover no more than like a month
yeah,
at most. Whereas Attack of the Clones is probably strung out over like 2 to 3 months of Earth time.
yeah,
Phantom Menace, again, we don't quite know how long that's all strung out. Um,
yeah,
and with Revenge of the Sith, that literally feels like it could be anywhere from like a month to 2 months. That we could have seen like like up to 3 months of time based on because we're not really shown how pregnant Padme is in the very beginning,
yeah,
and there's some sort of implication that like Vader's attack on her maybe made her go into labor earlier or an induced labor to save the babies. Like, it's not, that's obviously not her natural birth per se.
yeah,
So and I think the prequels to a degree suffers because we don't really get any sort of time check. So it seems really sudden, but we could be talking for Revenge of the Sith like 3 to 5 months worth of time has passed in that movie.
yeah.
Really quick, sorry chat, it's just we're talking Star Wars here. Andrew Gady's toys, I think. Yeah, that's a good argument. I actually, my take on that is Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman were having to act against green screen, and nobody had really done it to that extent. And I think we're going to get wooden performances because they're sort of trailblazing. Hello, Kenzo. And hello,
Kenzo?
Todd C. Well, hello, Todd, and we welcome you. We welcome the delegation from Transformers Toy Collecting Fandom.
Oh, wow. I like a bit of Transformers. Can't beat a bit of Transformers.
It's we were in a chat the other, and I made a joke.
Oh,
It's
okay.
very end joke, but it was a joke nonetheless. The aluminum falcon. I would have been one of those kids who got really mad. Like, that's not its name, you guys. I was the kid correcting everyone on the playground. It's Leia, not Leah. And then that one
you know,
guy.
Sorry, go on.
And this is General Dodonna at the end. Princess Leia brought us the plans. It's like, God dang it.
It's Leia. Oh dear. You were talking about Mark Hamill's acting, but
Yeah.
I listen. That scene he had with Yoda in Empire Strikes Back, or the time he spent with, I thought that was pretty awesome, because if he'd have got that wrong, that would have just looked absolutely stupid. But again, it's because Mark Hamill was so sincere; he believed in what he was saying, even though he might not have done, and it came across as that. And he made Yoda basically come to life with his acting and his, because he believed it, it made us believe it. And I like that. I thought that was really good.
In Mark's case too, I think it helped that, like, as he tells it, like he and Frank Oz and the R2, Kenny Baker for when they needed an actual person in R2, which wasn't all the time. But it was just him and that puppet on the scene for months and months and months. So I think it probably got really easy over time, because like it's just him and the puppet, like running lines. And I thought, and again, like I did, like none of them are the greatest actors, but I think the one thing we can say about the casting of the principal three characters in the original trilogy is that Lucas did do a really good job of picking people who embodied what the characters were. So there's not as much acting required. Like, Carrie Fisher, Hollywood, royalty, basically. Her parents were incredibly famous. She's always going to have a certain poise, because you never know when like her baby pictures are like press releases. Which, she took the exact opposite with her child. Like, Billy was, other than a few red carpets that she couldn't control, like she never put Billy on screen or in photographs. There was even an interview someone did at her house, and she's here, and way in the back you see a baby bundled up with like a nanny, and she's like, that's as close as the cameras are going to get until my kid can. And of course now Billy is an actress. But at least she got to pick.
We were lucky enough to meet Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill. They did Star Wars Celebration 2016 in London. So we managed to get our photograph taken and an autograph with Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher. And Carrie Fisher, absolute incredible lady. She was brilliant. And it's really weird, because you go and have your photographs taken with these people, and some of them are like really standoffish. And I was standing there, and then the guy said, right, we're going to take the photograph. And she's just dived in, and she's just put her arms around me and given me like a big hug. And I'm like, what? And I was like, this is Princess Leia. And sorry. And I was like, brilliant. And she was absolutely fantastic. So we've got like a little collection, or Georgie has, of for Princess Leia. I think it's the
British. I think it's a British thing, because Tarkin called her that also. But he also had just been told he smelled. So
and Mark Hamill was pretty cool. I liked him, but then they've got to open their mouth and spur out their political beliefs and stuff like that. Just shush. You're not a politician.
It's really hard. It's really hard in America right now, though, to not do politics. Like,
but the thing is,
difficult here.
politics is the root to all arguments, because there's no middle ground. There's no common sense. You're either too far left or too far right. And it's, just, I don't care what people's political beliefs are, right? They're entitled to those beliefs. But as long as you're a good person and you don't cause me any grief or harm, or you don't have issues, then we're going to get along fine. It's, but and it's about respect. You got to respect other people's decisions because we're not all the same, you know. Otherwise,
Yeah,
it'd be a pretty boring world if it was. So yeah, but I just don't like it when you know entertainers like actors or sports stars bring politics
yeah,
into things. Just you look, you get paid to entertain. You're not a politician. Leave that for
yeah.
the politicians. You know, you just do your job, play your sports, or do your acting, and be on your merry way. You get paid lots of money to do that, and that's
But
why I don't like the Oscars anymore because it's not a
yeah,
celebration of film. It's just basically people getting up and giving their political beliefs
yeah.
and
Um,
yeah, but there you are.
it's an American thing right now. Is
Yeah,
Americans at this point require it almost. So like if you don't speak out, like the public will turn on you, and if you do speak out, depending on which side you land on. So it's
yeah,
difficult in the United States right now for any celebrity with any sort of platform. I mean, there are influencers who are nobody, who if they don't speak out, they're quote unquote canceled. I don't know how successful a cancellation actually is because, like it tends to be something people say. The only people I've seen
yeah,
who are successfully canceled, you know, like always seem to bounce back. I've never seen an actual successful cancelization. I
yeah.
think it's interesting, like to sort of watch. I think it's just something some celebrities use to like, oh, woe is me. Please send money to, buy my products that I'm selling at the
Yeah,
bottom of the screen. Like I've been
yeah.
canceled. So
Oh, talking about the bottom of the screen, what is it that you hate about Moby? I mean, apart from the fact that I've got a bald head and pretty much look like him, you know.
well, okay, so I'll go ahead and write the lore out. So, if
Okay,
well, one, I just don't care for his music, but that's
that's
forgivable
fair
because
enough.
my
That's
taste is
fair enough.
not manifold, right?
Yeah.
In like 2017, Moby released his biography. Well, I can't call it an autobiography because we know it's a ghostwriter helped him. Because there's no way Moby strung those sentences together all on his own.
Yeah.
Anyway, within it, he talks about how he briefly dated Natalie Portman.
Oh, okay.
And if you know, if as I did, I didn't read the book because again, I've never liked him. I
Yeah.
did actually read it after the fact so that I could make my opinions based on actually reading it, not just getting it from the media. But he's like, oh yeah, like she and I dated, and he gave the year, at which point she would have been 17.
Okay.
Which he would have been in
Oh,
his
right. Yeah.
late 30s to early 40s. So one, there's
Yeah. That's fair enough. Yeah.
technically she's legal-ish.
Yeah.
Um, so I was kind of like, well, that's weird. And Natalie Portman especially suffered quite a bit in the 90s from being over sexualized from a very young age because of Leon the Professional. She used to get like she's talked a few times about some of the fan mail she would get as from adults. It's pretty sexually graphic, right? So
Yeah.
she,
Yeah.
and not like wasn't a thing where she was in a sexualized role. She was covered like she was a child, right?
Yep.
Um, so anyway, but then she released a statement, and she basically was like, "I find it really interesting that a much older, much creepier guy." Who was really weird and creepy with me when I was underage would misremember the situation and publish this in a book.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, because that makes it much worse. That means he pursued her and then rewrote it in his head to be that they were dating.
Oh,
And
wow.
the thing
Okay.
is it's not like Natalie Portman has any reason that she would need to make that statement. Nobody
Yeah.
had actually, I mean, I read the book after she made her statement because I was just like, that's weird, that's gross. But I did. I sat down to map it out to make sure she was underage.
Yeah.
Because that changed, one, he's lying about them being a couple. Even if she was 18, that's still, dude, you're like 38.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of weird. But no, and I was just like, and he kind of did a half-assed apology where he's like, I guess my memories aren't quite what I thought they were. And it's like, dude, you just tried to like have this major moment on the back of this young woman who was
Yeah.
very young at the time. Like when after she did Phantom Menace, she filmed I lived in Austin, Texas at the time, and she
Okay.
did a film called Where the Heart Is.
Yeah.
And there's a place in Austin called Barton Springs where there is you can go and like sort of play in the water and like lay out and stuff. And she would go out there and lay out, and people with their telescopic cameras were like, and she would take her top, she would lay down on her front, but just still taking her top off. I was on eBay, so I spent a lot of time in 1999 getting photos flagged as inappropriate because it was topless Natalie Portman, because they would snap it right that half a second when she lifts up to redo her bikini top, they would snap the picture like that.
Jeez.
And they were making a lot of money off of that.
Yeah, it's not
and they're just like, you know, she's like 15, 16 at the time, guys. Like, this is gross. Stop being gross. So
wow,
that's why I dislike movie. For those who
that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
You know, and
enough.
I have quite a bit of respect for Natalie Portman. Like, I think she's a pretty good actress. I feel like she makes really conscious decisions to try to like do interesting roles. I think she's, you know, I don't know. I really love Black Swan. It made me really wish they could somehow bring her back as like a Sith witch ghost character in something.
Yeah.
The ghost of Padme, sort of like all creepy and stuff, as a demented ballerina. I'd pay to see that.
Okay. Sorry, you have to excuse me. I have had to put my glasses on because I can't see bugger all. And yeah, I'm like colouring in, and it's don't want to go out the lines, especially some of this smaller stuff. You're very honoured, to be quite honest with you, because I very, very rarely wear my glasses on a live stream. I get absolute banter for it, and here I am colouring in wearing glasses.
No, I wear mine all the time just because I can barely see without them at this point.
Yeah,
it's a fun thing about getting old, is the point where you just need the reading glasses, and then you're like, you always need reading glasses, and then you have to go get actual glasses.
Yeah. Oh my god, no, I can't see at all because of the. That's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are.
I can still see from far away, so like I'm perfect for looking at a Monet painting. Far away, it's good, but up close, it's a big old mess, people, for me at all times. Yeah. So anyway, that's the secret.
That's why. Okay. Well, no, fair enough. I wasn't aware of that.
I mean, it's kind of have made it shtick just because it's sort of my way. You know, like you turn terrible things into humor, and it's much. If you're gonna like playfully hate on somebody, let it be somebody who actually has earned it. And I also have a friend in Los Angeles whose parents live down the street from him, so I have legitimately driven by his house screaming, "You suck!" So it's not just for internet clout. I have literally.
Well, you've got a good reason. That's fair enough.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was really him, but how many pale, bald dudes are hanging outside of Moby's house on your typical afternoon? Like it seems really unlikely that he could have a brother though. But were you in LA? No, I'm just kidding. Have you been to LA within the last 10 years?
Yes, actually, funny enough, I have.
Huh?
Yeah. 2015.
Okay, that definitely was not you then.
It wasn't me. It was all good. Yeah. Am I right in saying that I'm the first British person to?
You are the first British person I've had on here. That was why
I feel very, very honoured.
Yeah, no, and I have such a absolutely fabulous. The Young Ones. I used to watch the Young Ones on MTV because they would show it over here.
Yeah, that was really random. That wasn't it? Yeah,
it was really, but I think that's what I was too young. My dad really liked it, so he would laugh and I would laugh along, not quite getting the jokes. And then
you were just laughing at your dad, laughing,
yeah, because it tickled him so much. And then I went back and rewatched it in my 20s, and but I got a lot of the jokes then.
Yeah.
And of course, because of Absolutely Fabulous and Red Dwarf, I had, suddenly I knew a little bit more about British pop culture, so I got way more of the jokes.
Yeah.
And the Young Ones when I rewatched it, because and I had, I think most most Americans in the 90s had that, like we got all the British bands that came over the second uh, British wave of music that happened in the 90s,
Oh, okay,
Oasis
yeah,
and all those.
yeah, yeah,
I'm not a huge Oasis fan, but I liked Elastica. I
okay.
liked Blur. Um, but there was sort of, because of that, I, started reading about British music and um, just sort of learning about, sort of all the stuff.
Yeah.
I know it sounds really vacant the way I just said it, but I just started looking into it and I'm like, there's a lot of really cool stuff there. And then we got Austin Powers around the same time. So that, of course, also. And
Yeah,
then,
crikey. Powers, man.
Ab Fab often had, Lulu was and Twiggy were both jokes on there. And my mom was like, oh, yeah, Twiggy, like, was why I starved myself for most of the 60s. I'm like, oh,
Oh God.
it's like, Jesus.
Wow. Just...
But,
Have have you seen a sitcom called oh crikey, what's it called? Unbelievable. Um oh bloody hell. Only Fools and Horses.
I don't think so. What is it?
It's basically about a couple of brothers that live together in their mum's flat in London somewhere. It's like it's a council flat, and they're like dodgy dealers sort of thing. They're kind of like scoundrel con men type sort of thing, and they live with their granddad. And then after a couple of seasons, I think the guy who would play the granddad passed away. So then they got the uncle in, Uncle Albert, and stuff like that. It was yeah, it was very, very well written, and it was absolute comedy gold. It was just brilliant. The stories that they were telling, and just the way the characters were written and stuff like that. It was yeah. I can't remember the name of the guy who wrote it now. Oh my god.
I watched, I think the
Oh
most, and this is not very recent, but I watched, was it the IT generation? I think the IT, um, I forget the name of it, but it was British and they're all working in the IT department together. I've watched some of The Office, but since we have an American Office, it doesn't feel like I was watching like for the Britishness of it to get some British comedy. It was like, let me see where it came from. So
yeah, yeah. What did
a
you
little
think of that?
different. The British Office, I liked it, but also um, it was really clear that so much of the humor was sort of, if you're not British and you haven't worked in an office in Britain, or like
Yeah,
some of the humor is not going to quite land. And it's probably very much the same with like the American Office, where some of it is just very American humor, where it's
yeah,
like, if you're not
yeah.
American, it's not all going to play. I watch. It's a much shorter series than the American version, so I did watch, like, I think it's what, 3 or 4 series. So I
Yeah.
did watch all of them. Um,
The
but they
character
also,
David Brent, he makes being. I felt awkward watching his character. That's how funny and that's how believable he was. Some of the
which one?
situations and some of the conversations he had, it just made you feel. It just made you cringe. He's like, oh man, this is really, really awkward. But I like that. I found that quite
Yeah,
amusing. It's
I think there's a lot of comedy, I think, to be had from like the awkward,
yeah, yeah,
uncomfortably
yeah,
awkward. I mean, like, the American Office, Michael Scott's character, I think, which is was like that as well, where he was just
yeah,
awkward and uncomfortable and really inappropriate at times in his. I think there's good humor to be had from that, though. And I think, when it's sort of, when we get back to sort of like diversity talk or whatever, I think that's the sort of main way to sort of get a if, like, for racist people, I think we're never going to fix some of those people, but for those of us who aren't, I
no, we
think
won't.
there's some great things that we can do with that kind of humor, where it's like it can really help us deconstruct it and laugh at it and rip it
Yeah,
apart,
yeah,
especially when you see how stupid you look when you're trying to play stuff like that off. But yeah, I'm a fan of that kind of humor, I think. And I think that's why I like a lot of the British stuff I've seen, that, like Ab Fab is 100% just these two really out of touch, vacuous sort of women who are really, I mean, we would call it clout chasing now, but like they're on the fringes
Yeah.
of like fame, and like they're always trying to be famous and rich, and instead of just, being authentic people. And it's like
Yeah.
at the end of it, every time that series ends, they give us a different future for them, but they always end up miserable, stuck together while everyone else is living their best life. Um, I think Red Dwarf is doing another series soon, isn't it? Or did they have it and we just haven't
I've
gotten it yet?
never seen Red Dwarf. I've never seen Red Dwarf.
Really?
Yeah. It was, I don't know why it never really sort of like hit home with me. I never really sort of like gelled with it. It was really weird because I know at
Yeah.
the time I was at school at the time, and I just don't think it was my sort of like humor.
Yeah.
At that time. So yeah,
I kind of
and I
dug
think
it.
and I think because a lot of people liked it, and it was the in thing. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, do you know what? I'm sick of being with the in crowd. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I
So
just want to.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Over here, not so much. It was like on PBS, which is our public. So it was kind of like they would show Red Dwarf and Doctor Who and sort of all of this culture stuff to make us more cultured. So it was
cultured.
basically the nerds and the geeks who would watch all of it. So it was,
Yeah.
I didn't even watch sort of Red Dwarf when it was on. One of my exes had all of the series on VHS in the process of us becoming what we became. With a lot of it was crashing out and then waking up to endless episodes of Red Dwarf.
Yeah.
And sitting there and barely dressed, watching Red Dwarf and eating cereal and
Oh dear. Did you ever watch Blackadder?
Huh?
Did you watch Blackadder? Because if you like Red Dwarf, I think you might like Blackadder.
It's on. I have the series on DVD, and I've just not gotten to it yet.
Okay.
I picked it up during the pandemic when we were in lockdown because I'm like, I've got all this time, and then I ended up getting on YouTube, and then suddenly, it's watching movies and TV has become an event because I watch a lot of the stuff my friends make. Like I finally caught a couple of your videos. I'm like, I need to go back and binge on all of his stuff now. Because that's how it works for me. Like I find a channel that I like and then I go watch everything I possibly can. But because of that, I watch a lot of YouTube stuff. And I've been, once I have my studio set up, I've been I have a TV and a little TV and a little VCR that I'm going to set up sort of right here so that when I am working on pages, I don't just have YouTube and the computer to keep me company, so I can break out some of my VHS. And so Blackadder is on the short list of things I bought that I need to watch.
I think if you liked Red Dwarf or the young ones and stuff like that, I think you might like.
I quite like. Obviously, the one British import comedy that all Americans seem to like, Monty Python. So I quite enjoyed.
Oh yeah.
All of that, and like even Yellowbeard, which is technically not Monty Python, but has so many Monty Python people in it, it might as well be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited for it. When again, it's sort of the excitement about being almost done with that build. I was hoping I would have it done for today so you could, but it won't be, just because some days I gotta sleep. I finally admitted sometimes I have to sleep. The IT crowd. Thank you, Mint with
the IT crowd.
And really quick, Todd is asking, are you into Warhammer 40K?
No, not really. I know very little, if anything, about Warhammer 40K. I've seen seen it in the shops. We have stores over here that they do the Warhammer and stuff like that. And a friend of mine, Chris Miwar from Chasing 80s Toys, he's just recently got into Warhammer and he's painting his own bits. And I think there's another friend of mine called Matt from 0 Toys. He's actually collecting the 6-inch Warhammer figures from Joy Toy, and honest to God, they do look superb. But no, are you talking about the actual figures and painting them yourselves and playing the game, or do you just mean to you get the figures and collect the figures? If either way, I don't know much about it at all, if I'm honest. But I can appreciate it.
And then Mental Card is saying Vicious is a hilarious show, very witty, and Queens being bitchy. I will add that. Nothing like bitchy queens. I mean, England, I'm sure you have quite a love of all the varieties of bitchy queens.
Oh, we got plenty of bitchy queens over here. Yeah.
Some of them are actual. No, wait,
Yeah,
I can't remember. People don't like the current queen, the married in queen. What is it? What is it? Graham Norton refers to her as old horse.
Camilla.
Camilla, yes. Oh, yeah.
Queen
Like,
Camilla. Yeah.
Queen Camilla.
Yeah.
Like, my understanding is she's not very popular.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, she's queen by name, isn't she? Really, or by title?
Well,
yeah.
She is, whether you like it or not.
I thought the Queen Elizabeth was a remarkable woman, an absolute gem of a lady.
Yeah.
To hold the monarch as long as she did, to represent the country and do what she did. I mean, I know a lot of people aren't royalists. I mean, I'm not a royalist, but I can still appreciate her. And it was so sad when she passed away. I mean, it was inevitable. It was going to happen at some point. But yeah, me and my wife, we went up to London not long after she had passed away in 2022.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, crikey. So you got Buckingham Palace, and then to the side of it, you got a big park, and the majority of that park was just covered in flowers, and it was just, and the mall was like, you had all the different flags and stuff like that, and it was just, it was, she was just a remarkable woman.
Yeah.
And it's such a shame, but these things happen in life. And then Charles has been, he's become king, and now apparently he's not feeling very well. He's not very well.
Yeah,
stuff like that. So
we've sort of gotten over here.
Yeah,
Americans, we really adore Diana. So, like, for us, when she passed, a lot of the fascination over here with the monarchy over there sort of kind of ended at that. Like, Fergie never took off the way she thought she would.
No.
And then we got our own Fergie in the Black Eyed Peas. So we were like, we've got one. Thanks, Sarah. We're good. But yeah, like ridiculously, well, I mean, not ridiculous to you because you're over there, but ridiculous for most Americans. I remember driving home from a late night shift at Blockbuster when the news about Diana came on, and it being feeling so surreal that I thought, like, am I asleep? Is this like one of those weird supernatural things you hear about happening to people? Because I'm in the middle of nowhere in my car in Texas driving home, and like the news breaks, and the way it's announced is in such a and then you've got Elton John recycling an old song about it, where it's like, couldn't we have given her her own song, Elton? Like,
yeah, it was very sad, and I think, I'm not too much into conspiracy theories and stuff like that, but I think there was a little bit more into it than what people have sort of like kind of let on.
Yeah, I'm not
like I said, I'm not a conspiracy theorist and stuff like that, so I'm not going to start.
I've watched a bunch of stuff on that because I'm not into them where I believe in them, but I like to research them to understand where they come from. But what I will say, as somebody who is pretty sane about conspiracy theories, there are definitely some inconsistencies in the facts that at least suggest there is a deeper story than what is publicly released, which is valid. Sometimes you don't release certain details to the public. Like, I'm not an absolutionist where I feel like we need to know everything that ever happened. Like, unless it's really specific to what happened. Like, I don't care if this is like, I don't care what her dinner was before she died. Like, I don't feel like I need to know that. And there are some people who want
Yeah,
to know everything, and if they're not told, we don't know what she ate. Obviously, they're hiding something from us. It's like, no, they just don't want you to know she had beans. Like, they don't want you to
beans
know
on
she had
toast.
beans and toast with Diana's last meal. It's not very regal, guys. Like, and I
Oh,
feel
dear.
like, especially in America, there's a lot of that where it's like, what are they hiding from us? They just don't want you to know she
Yeah,
farted. Like, she farted when the accident happened. It's not
yeah.
regal. It's
I mean,
embarrassing.
to be fair, I do feel sorry for her because I don't think either of them were really sort of like happy within their marriage, so
Mm-mm.
to speak. Because I know, from early days, Charles, Camilla was the one for Charles,
Yeah,
but being part of royalty and being in the royal family, you
yeah,
have certain
right.
things that you need to abide by and stuff like that. So because of who he was, Prince Charles, and because of who Lady Diana was at the time, she was the one to be,
Yeah,
his wife, and we always kind of like assumed that his heart was with Camilla. So yeah, but I mean, Diana wasn't a saint. She was the
oh no.
people's princess for sure, but she certainly wasn't a saint.
So this
But
is
but
a
yeah, yeah,
question I
I just
have,
find the whole thing sad.
because the way, and this is something maybe you could speak to, and this is the part, guys, where we're done probably talking about Star Wars for the rest of the time we're here. Um, so the story often presented us to us here in America
Yeah.
is that Diana was sort of this schoolgirl plucked from nothingness to become the princess, and it became this great love story. But some of what I've seen, like, obviously she is part of the, like, she was a duchess before, correct?
I believe so. Yeah,
But
yeah.
she wasn't actually like sort of like she was known, like, so I don't know. It's a weird. I mean, again, this is sort of a spin that you kind of want that big fairy tale wedding to be a big thing
Oh
for
God, I mean,
us.
it was. I mean, that was the biggest thing in the UK at the time. The marriage of Charles and Diana. I
Yeah,
mean, it was massive at St Paul's Cathedral, which is a fantastic cathedral. I'm not a religious person, but I do
yeah.
like the architecture of these buildings.
Oh
So
yeah,
yeah,
no.
it was absolutely huge,
I mean,
without any shadow
they
of a doubt.
broadcasted here for us. I stayed home from school so I could watch Diana and Charles get married. Well, I think it was
Wow.
on a
Yeah. Yeah.
delay. So, like, even though it had happened, because we're different time zones, but
Yeah.
like they played it during the day as if it were happening live
Wow.
over here where I was. And some places may have got it live, but I stayed home from school so I could watch. My parents also let me stay home to watch General Hospital Luke and Laura get married. So, like, this is America. Like, our fictional characters were as important to us as your real, people.
Yeah.
But it was a big deal over here. But it was always sort of portrayed as like she was this, anyone could have been Diana. And it's like, the more I've learned, not so fast, kids. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the sort of
But
thing
no,
I find
it was a
interesting.
shame. But I think after Charles and stuff like that. I mean, I think there was reports, rumors that she was with a rugby player, and then
Hmm.
there was another guy, James Hewitt. Apparently, there was something happened, with him, and then fired the guy that she was with on the night that she died.
Yeah.
So it's and you know what the press are like. They like to build someone up, then knock them down again,
Yeah.
don't they? So
Yeah. They gotta, well, you have to have
yeah,
that story, and then, tear them down and then build them
yeah,
back up
yeah,
for a redemption arc.
yeah.
Unless you're
I just think
Fergie.
it's such a
Sorry,
shame, but
Sarah. Sorry, Sarah Ferguson. That's never gonna be yours. No matter how hard you try, it's never gonna happen, ma'am.
yeah, bless her.
They tried to
Oh,
make her
sorry.
really big over here at one point.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, they really. There was a while where like she was on commercials. She was doing all the talk shows over here. Like they
Oh,
really,
she was in an episode of Friends as well. So there you
yeah,
are.
yeah. They pushed her really hard. She did Nutrisystem, which is a diet meal thing over here, where it's like I lost 15 pounds eating this. And it's like, and you will, princess or not, duchess or not, you will gain it all back, just like the rest of us did, madam. As soon as you start eating real food, it comes back. Yeah, they really
Oh,
tried to make Fergie happy. I mean, that's why we call her Fergie still, even though that's not. We have a new Fergie now in the Black Eyed Peas, of course,
oh yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
they really pushed her at one point, like, to America. she's the people's royalty, the people's royal. She's down to earth.
I mean, she was never as popular in the UK as what Diana was. That's for sure.
The story we would get, and this again, this is part of the marketing spin, is the story we would get was that everyone in England was really mean to her. Like the press hated her, the people hated her. She was mistreated for no reason other than she wasn't as pretty as Diana.
Well, I think that's probably what it was. I think because of how Diana was, and when her looks, and I mean what she did with for people,
Yeah.
You can't argue against that. But so I mean, yeah, I mean she was competing against Diana, and it was always going to be one winner. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, but unfortunately for Sarah Ferguson, there was only always going to be one winner. Like I say, Diana was the people's princess. She was the what she did for charity, and what she did for people, and how she was, and everybody loved her. And there you are.
It just seems really weird to me because again, like we don't really necessarily have the our celebrities are way more like that over here than the monarchy.
Yeah.
I mean, they've tried a few times to make that happen with some of our politicians, but it just doesn't, like so and so's wife, like this senator's wife, isn't she the best, or whatever. It's like, yeah, never mind, we're good. Give us some celebrities who are in movies. But it's just really interesting, sort of, they really pushed. But we did really love Diana. She just captured our imagination over here. And again, it was the people's princess. I mean, like, that's not the messaging we got, but we got, like, all the charities she does, all of the... she's there for the children. And, like, we got a lot of that. And, not going to argue, because at least, it wasn't... modern day, all we get from royals is how terrible things are going with it's weird. Like we're getting Prince Charles has health issues, and then is it William's wife? Is it Kate? She disappeared. They've killed her. Like we got crazy conspiracies that she'd been killed and was being replaced, and she's having health issues, and it's none of our business.
I mean, the thing is, at the end of the day, these are human beings as well. They've got, they have personal issues, they have health issues. It happens to us all, but they're in the public eye, and I think with the press, I think they go a little bit OTT with some of what they put in the press about these people and stuff like that. And I think for the most part, they have kind of like respected Kate's privacy when it comes to her health issues and stuff like that, which is good, because I think it was very different back in the 80s and the 90s with Diana. I mean, the paparazzi were everywhere. Everywhere you looked, she was in the papers for some reason or another and stuff like that. And the kids were very young at the time, weren't they, when their mum died and stuff like that, William and Harry. And you don't want the same mistakes happening again, and the press hounding Kate. So I think they've been very respectful in that kind of thing. So which is good. But
well, hopefully the American press, who has been, because I was just like, y'all just leave her alone. Like, again, because I think a big part, regardless of what happened with the actual accident, conspiracy-minded people or not, like, a big part of the reason Diana is not with us is them trying to escape the paparazzi. Like, just that is the thing I've never understood. And again, it kind of almost goes back to like when we were talking earlier about certain segments of fandoms like bullying people off the internet. It's just like, let them go. It's not, if you don't like somebody in a movie, or you don't like the Diana and Charles are no longer together, just let them have their lives. You don't need to focusing on stuff. People, if you don't like somebody, it's weird that you would spend so much time focused on them.
Thing is, it sells news. That's the thing. It's just, it's like, YouTubers now, they clickbait, don't they? They advertise something, or they bitch and moan about something and whatnot, and it gets views, and that's what they did. Diana was big news, so I think everybody wanted a piece of her at that time and stuff like that. So the paparazzi were there, and they were selling off their pictures, and look what she's done, and of course it'd be the headlines and stuff like that. And people would would want to know about it, and people would be interested in it and read about it. It would sell newspapers. Because don't forget, at the time, we never had the thing called the internet. It was all
Yeah.
tabloid press, wasn't it? And on the news, on the telly, and stuff like that. So it put viewing ratings up and stuff like that. It sold papers. It got people talking, and it's very callous, a very callous way of doing things. Yeah. But it's
also I'm again England versus America. Like over here, I notice when there's an uptick in sort of celebrity gossip and big celebrity scandal, it's often when there's something happening over here that gossip is not going to fix, like some sort of tragedy, or like not necessarily politics, but some sort of political thing that is actually resulting in suffering or whatever. All of a sudden there will be this uptick, and like, you won't believe what so and so wore to the Golden Globes.
Oh,
and I
who
think
cares?
Exactly, right? Like yeah, it's weird. Like, but I've noticed our news cycle works that way a lot now. When there's something important that we do need to know about, it quickly gets buried unless it's going to keep people watching the television. So like when we had the 9/11 thing, like they realized that they could keep us stuck to the TV 24/7 waiting for news. And so like we often get, we call it, I don't know if you have the same phenomenon over there, but we call it doom scrolling over here, where you just sit and scroll through your phone or watch the news, and it's all the bad stuff and everything horrible happening, and then you end up going down these sort of rabbit holes, if you will. So we get a lot of that over here, and it's something like I have personally been aware of for a couple of years now, that I've again, like as I mentioned earlier with Instagram, I've really spent time figuring out how to break the scroll.
Yeah.
And again, yes, mint with card, stop trying to make free happen. Like it just wasn't our jam, guys. It's okay. Yeah, I will say the Met. I enjoy the Met Gala because it's supposed to be art. I don't watch it and be like, how could that person wear that thing? I watch it because like it's supposed to be a like art show via fashion. So I do participate in watching the Met Gala, but it's from the point of view like these outfits are supposed to be artistic and they're supposed to be statement pieces, and I'm never gonna watch a red carpet where they're like, oh my God, like look at how her boobs are hanging out of that dress. It was the worst dress ever. I will watch the Met Gala and entertain people discussing the artistic merit of these over the top costumes, because that's completely different. That to me is part of art.
Yeah.
So I will say I will engage in trash talking fashion when it's the Met Gala, because it's supposed to be fashion.
Well, I'm the least fashionable person going, so I don't tend to go for the fashion type sort of thing.
It's fine if you don't
wear what I wear, and that's it. You know what I mean? So,
agreed. Yeah, I'm not ever going to talk smack about anyone but myself for wearing white jeans after 1983.
So, for those of you in the chat, I don't know if you know this, but Alison can do the most wonderful British accent.
Oh no!
So I think you should show everybody how good your English is, or your British accent, should I say?
Yes, I should. Okay, let's see if I can. Bloody buggery bullocks. There we go. That's it.
That's exactly how we sound. That's honestly, was that supposed to be Cockney? Was that Cockney?
I guess whatever Samantha Fox was, because
she was a page 3 model with big norks. That's what she was.
Yeah, she was a pop star in America. I had a poster.
She was not happy. A pop star.
Yeah,
okay.
I have all of her albums. My mom was not happy whenever I wanted the Samantha
Fox I'm not surprised.
From my wall. She's like, you can't have the one with her boobs hanging out. I'm like, but they're all of her boobs hanging out. And then she
I wouldn't have called her a pop star.
Yeah, she was a pop star over here. Yeah, yeah, she was
Wow.
definitely nudie girl over there, but I believe she was Cockney because I believe I read that in like a People
Oh
magazine
God.
article
Do
that
you know
had
what? I
one.
can't even remember what she sounds like if I'm honest. But there you
No,
go.
you know,
Samantha Fox.
it was 1986 to 1988, y'all. I did not have the
God,
discerning taste in music I do
I
now.
was a youngster back then. Oh, I was a youngster.
I was right at that. I was like 12 to like 15-ish whenever I would, so I was the ideal audience for a trashy British page 6 topless model turned pop star. So, and like her songs, of course, now seem very tame. But
Well, I
at the
don't even
time,
remember any of her songs. That's how good her
scandalous.
songs were. I can't even remember what she
Well,
sung,
I think
if I'm
she,
honest.
again, I think she was a lot bigger over here than she was there to a degree. She had like "Touch Me, I Want Your Body."
Oh,
Um,
Jesus.
do you want to touch me? No, do you want to please me? She did a
Oh,
cover of "I Only Want to Be with You," which every British person who tries to be a pop star covers that song. Um,
oh,
like I've heard so many cover. I think even Tracy Ullman covered that song.
oh. Tracy
Um,
Ullman probably did a better job than Samantha Fox did.
oh, probably. But that's how we first learned about Tracy Ullman over here as a pop star, and she had Paul McCartney in a video.
Okay.
Um, and then she got her show and became a comedy person. But we were quite confused when she first did her comedy show because it's like, wait, that lady who sings songs on the radio? Okay. And so,
Tracy Ullman.
yeah.
I was very, very big into Madonna back in the 80s. I just thought she was incredible, and I still, well, I think she's let herself go a little bit really with all the plastic surgery she's had and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But
She's gone
I
through
thought, like, entertainment wise and musical wise, I thought she was absolutely incredible.
Oh yeah, I liked that's sort of, like I graduated into her. But when she started her stuff over here was very um I mean, like she's got some good songs on her first two albums, but like it wasn't really
Yeah, yeah,
until her the album with True Blue that she really sort of started notching her stuff up and moving beyond
yeah,
just that's when she started sort of every album she would sort of revamp and like do different stuff and like explore different musical styles. That's when she really took off over here.
yeah,
Um, but I quite, like now but I think it's also very, this is the one thing as I get older, younger me was very judgmental of people like Madonna who like keep
really,
doing the fillers and keep doing, but as I get older, um, I have those moments where I'm just like, "Ugh, that used to be up here and now it's down here." And I'm gonna imagine when you're somebody like Madonna, whose entire career is built on looking a certain way, it's a lot, and you've got the money
yeah,
to call a doctor and have them come over and do questionable things in the middle of the night. Um, I'm a lot more sympathetic because of sort of the pressure. Like, but yeah, and it's weird because it feels like it happened overnight, but it's just because as you get older, time goes by. Oh God, I almost quoted one of her songs. But as time goes faster, it's like the Madonna I'm remembering is like 2010, which is 15 years ago.
wow,
So
that's
Madonna also
mental.
has the same birthday as my mom did. So like
Oh
my
wow,
mom
oh there you
always
go.
hated
Okay.
that. Like they're the same
Oh, did she?
age. Because she hated Madonna. So of course I loved Madonna. But a tramp.
Oh, she's
I'm like,
great.
but mom, she's just speaking for the generation now.
When I look back at some of her videos from the first two albums, they were so very typical 80s.
Mm,
You know, like things like Borderline and
yeah,
Crazy for You.
yeah,
Do you know what? I forgot about that song, and I was at work one day, and I was had this Madonna fix and stuff like that, and I went on YouTube and I've done a playlist of certain Madonna songs from her first couple of albums, and then I just started singing this song, and I thought, hang on a minute, I know that song. And I was like,
yeah,
bloody hell. And then it was Crazy for You from Madonna. And I was like, oh, wow.
yeah.
So I put it, looked it up on YouTube and added it to the playlist. And yeah, well happy. That was one of the first songs that got me into into liking Madonna. That's
Yeah,
crazy for you.
I had that on 45.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Oh, God,
and the flip
45.
side
Wow.
was Berlin, No More Words, which I also
Okay.
like. And Terry Nunn of Berlin was one of the actresses who auditioned for Carrie
Yes,
Fisher. It
you
all comes
did.
back
I
to
like the
total.
way you segued into that. That was
Yeah,
very clever.
well,
It's like
it's organic. Great.
it's like
Thank you.
you thought this out. It's just
Yeah,
brilliant.
yeah, no.
Awesome. I'm kind of glad
Awesome.
she didn't get Carrie Fisher. Oh, Carrie Fisher. I'm glad she didn't get Princess Leia. Terry
Oh,
Nunn.
I am as well.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, you know, it would have been
well,
so
and at
different.
that point, her only real movie that she ever did was Thank God It's Friday, a disco movie. She does
Okay.
have, she and her friend's storyline in this movie is they are high schoolers who want to go to a Kiss concert.
Yeah.
So they sneak into the disco, the local hot disco, so they can dance in the disco contest and win the prize money to go buy the Kiss concert tickets. And through the course of the movie, they do not win, of course.
Yeah.
At the end of it, Terry Nunn goes, "Oh my God, we're never gonna have money for a Kiss concert now." And her friend goes, "Screw that concert. We're disco queens now." I'm like, "This is my movie." Like at like age 9, I was like, "Yes, this is a whole." And then later, of course, she becomes the lead singer of Berlin.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as far as I'm aware, I only know one. Well, I don't. I am aware. I only know one song that Berlin done, and that was "Take My Breath Away"
Yeah,
from Top Gun. That's the only song that I know
they had a
from them.
couple others that it would probably be almost like crazy to you, where crazy for you, where you heard it, you would be like, "Oh, who is this?" And then
Okay.
you would look it up and be like, "Oh," like they had a song called Metro that I didn't realize was Berlin until I bought Berlin's Greatest Hits to get Take My Breath Away and No More Words.
Okay.
And then I'm like, oh, I know this song. So they have a couple songs that were pretty ubiquitous in the 80s. And they at least got to England because I've watched performances of at least one on Top of Pops. So
Yeah. Top
my
of the
favorite
pops. Wow. Top of the pops. Good gosh.
My favorite all time, everyone needs to, after this stream is over, everyone, your assignment today is to go look up Top of Pops, Casey and the Sunshine Band, Give It Up.
Give it up. Give it
Yep.
up. Baby, give it up.
Because one, the dancing is super 80s. Number two, he's
Yeah.
totally coked out, which is also very 80s. And his pants leave nothing to the imagination, also very
Oh.
80s. And he's got two very sassy black backup dancers, who have the best sweaters in the world. And I also say this, if you ever find either of those sweaters, ping me on Instagram because I will send you money to get me, because the sweaters they're fire. They're perfect 80s sweaters. So
Wasn't it a great decade, the 80s? Don't you think? The
it,
80s and the early 90s. I
it
was
was
like,
pretty
wow.
good. Like I
The
miss it.
music, the movies. I thought it was bloody good, if I'm
I
honest.
have quite a bit of affection for like the whole, like again, for me, it kind of starts with Star Wars. It's like everything from there to about 1999 is just like,
Yeah.
despite, like the awkwardness of my 20s and teen years, and again, I think it's kind of going back to that opening crawl moment, the first time you have that hit. Like, I think there's just when you're in your 20s, you don't really know anything, no matter how smart you are, no matter how much you know so little. So like
Yeah.
everything is like this new experience and everything is brighter and more colorful. Like, and I think for the 80s, like it starts out really like brown. And then around like 85 to 86, everything goes neon and bright, and it's kind of like the Wizard of Oz, right? 1980 to 1983, you're in Kansas, it's black and white. 1984 kicks the door open, everything's Technicolor. Like,
Yeah.
and I think that lasted in my memory, like everything is Technicolor till about 1999, 2000. So I have a lot of affection for all of that. Yeah, and I definitely feel I have moments like for instance, right before we started the stream, my amazing boyfriend brought me this little flower from our garden because we bought a house, and that's my
Romantic.
little
Yeah.
yeah. So he's been out there because I will, oh, because I will kill anything. I have a brown thumb, but
A brown
he's,
thumb?
yeah, that's what we call it over here whenever you kill plants. So,
Oh, right. I see. Yeah,
so
yeah,
he's out there making cucumbers and flowers and roses and
yeah,
be quite a lot. So,
yeah. No, my wife's a gem. She bought me a glass of water before the stream,
aw,
so I'm very happy with that. I get very, very thirsty when I do these chit chats and stuff like that. So I need to hydrate, stay hydrated.
that's the
So
one I was.
I've just done my second my second bit of colouring in, and to be honest
No,
with you, I'm quite impressed with myself. I've
no,
not done
no,
colouring in for a long
we're
time.
about to hit
Yes,
2 hours, so let's see what.
yeah,
Oh, you did boss. I'm gonna
I'm the
put you up
boss.
on solo so everyone can
Yeah, oh,
appreciate
oh,
it.
thank you very much. Look at that.
There we go. How did
Not
Archie
bad
come?
for a kind of blindish person. I had to put my glasses on in certain bits, but
I
yeah,
like
that.
like you did a I like how you stylized it. Like the way you use the color, like it's got like a really nice style to it with the dark and the light. So that
Oh
looks
yeah,
really
well, yeah, I'm a little bit, I can be a bit artsy when I want to, and
good. Yeah.
then the first one I did, so it was R2D2, but I didn't do R2D2, I did R2KT
Oh, nice.
because I like this droid. So I had this droid in figure form. My wife kindly got it for me for Christmas. No, she didn't. She got it for my 50th last year. Absolutely stunning figure, and very poignant really because of
Yeah.
what this represents, which is
Yeah.
the little girl in honor of the little girl Katie who passed away sadly.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No,
So
that
yeah,
was
no,
really cool with them to basically not give her per se, but create a droid for her.
yeah, definitely.
So I didn't finish, but that's okay. I'll finish it at some point.
Oh no, I've still got one more to do. I don't know.
Oh,
I
well,
don't know how long I don't know how long you go on for. How long do
well,
you do your streams?
we hit 2 hours. This is usually when my phone lets me know we're about to die. So
Okay. All right.
yeah.
Well, if
So, yeah.
if you're bored with me, then
Oh
yeah,
no, I'm not bored.
we'll call it a day.
It's all about to die.
Okay.
We're all
Alright.
about to die. No, the phone is just yeah. No, the phone at 2 hours. My phone is like no more, girl, no more.
No more. And
Yeah.
you put me through enough. You put me
But
through
we are
enough.
gonna have you back. We're gonna do
Oh
more
well.
Saturdays.
Yeah. I would love to. I've really enjoyed this. If I'm honest, it's been
It's
very.
been,
It's
yeah.
quite relaxing. It's kind of therapeutic in a way, which is good. And I've just surprised myself with how pretty cool I am when it comes to colouring in.
No, you did.
I'm
Again,
gonna frame these. I'm very proud of these. I'm gonna
you
frame
did it.
these.
No, for sure. No.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we'll definitely have you. Well, like I said, sort of before we started, this is like we talked heavy Star Wars at first, and what'll
We did.
happen next time when you come back, there will be so little Star Wars. People will be like, "Wait, I thought there was Star Wars." No,
Yeah.
no. That's the getting to know each other, where we figure out the Star Wars stuff. And I mean, you guys learned about how Fergie was the fetch of the British monarchy. They kept trying to make it happen, it just never did.
No, I mean she was. Listen, she was. I mean they. It was like a competition. I mean the press built it up as a competition. Diana and Fergie and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And because Diana was so popular with the public, I think they wanted Fergie to be the same, and it just wasn't gonna.
Mm-mm.
It was never gonna happen. And again, I felt sorry for her and Andrew as well because of the situation that they found themselves in and stuff like that. And they don't help themselves, so there's these people after time.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want to be in a situation like that. I mean, I wouldn't want to be. I mean, yeah, okay. I say I don't want to be plastered all over the place and stuff like that. I'll put myself out on YouTube, but that's relatively small in it, to be honest with you, compared to what these guys are. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But there you go.
Well, I think Diana was lightning in a bottle, and there was no way that was just ever going to happen again. It's never going to happen again, no matter.
Just like the original trilogy of Star Wars, lightning in a bottle.
You
Yeah.
can go
Again,
back.
I like the way. Yeah, you've sort of like segued into that again. You're very clever. Very clever.
I've been doing this a little bit, so I've gotten way better about not feeling like forced as much when I'm like, let's all. Also, the connection when you have an authentic conversation, the connections just happen. So
Yeah,
you can't plan that.
No, I've really, really enjoyed it, and
No,
I just want to say a massive thank you for inviting me on your channel.
You're
Thank
welcome,
you.
and I hopefully by the time we get do this again, I won't be using a phone because I'll have the studio will all be set up. So this is
Oh,
another like
oh,
camera instead of a phone. Um,
yeah.
and then we can just go until our hands fall off and
Okay. Okay.
the big wave of Death
Well,
Star
if we
water.
do this again, I'll be exactly the same. My
Yeah,
technology knowledge will be just as
oh,
bad as
that's
it is
okay.
now. So
Oh,
we'll keep it as it is, you know. So there
I
you are.
think there's something to be said for finding the format that works. So,
Yes. Yeah. Well, it wasn't for want of trying. It wasn't for want of trying. Like I said, you know, I did have a camera set up and stuff like that,
oh
but where
yeah,
it
no,
was placed, it wasn't
it's
the, you know,
difficult.
evidence.
StreamYard doesn't make it easy to have multiple cameras unless you pay for the full range of
Well,
products.
we could have multiple cameras, but to do that, we have to get a special adapter to fit in with the cameras that we've got, because then I can
Right.
have two running off one system,
Yeah.
and then one can be focused in on drawing and stuff like that. But then I've got to keep switching because it won't let me have two up at the same time. So I'll have to cleverly switch it from one camera to another, and that's hard work. And I don't want.
It's a
I
lot of
just
work.
it's a lot of work, and
Yeah.
I'm lazy. You know, I just
No,
want it to be easy. You know what I mean?
I'm assuming, like most of us, you have a job outside of YouTube. So, like,
I
work.
do, I do work outside of YouTube. I work for a company called McLaren, which are the F1 team and the automotive
Oh,
company. So I build
oh,
cars for a living. So
oh my
yes,
God. We didn't even get to talk
yes.
about you building cars. Well, I know
Well,
top
there's
of
not
the
much to talk
list
about
next.
really. It's a job, innit? I go to work, I earn some pennies, I come home and I do stuff like this. So, yeah,
There you go.
it's all right.
Hey,
Yeah, yeah. So
McLaren.
if you guys see a McLaren in the States, you can think, oh, I know someone who built that. It'll be.
And really
Yeah.
quick for the chat,
Oh, bless them. Bless them, the chat. Thank you. Thank you for turning up, chat. Thank you.
please, again, if you're watching and you have not yet subscribed, let's get Stu over 1,000, just so that he has a few more tools in the box to make his
Thank you.
YouTubery amazing.
Thank
Because,
you.
as I've
I
said,
appreciate it.
one of my favorite channels talking Star Wars, because again, it's not about hating it, it's about honestly discussing stuff. So that's
Yeah.
what we need in the
There,
fandom.
there, there is another channel that I'm very close to, and they're both great guys. That's Adam and Martin Long, and they're cousins, and they're a long time ago, and they are so enthusiastic about Star Wars. And I was on one of their review shows when a certain Star Wars series came out, and to be honest with you, I didn't like it. And
Yeah.
they were, you know, they tried to be so positive, but I think after one of the episodes, they were both of them were so downbeat and downhearted. They're like, oh god, you know, and it was so. I thought I'd come up with an idea to do a
Yeah.
series called What Made Star Wars Great, and that's where we
Yeah.
get people to come on and talk about their favorite bits of Star Wars and, you know, what made Star Wars great. And at the same time, they were coming up with an idea called For the Love of Star Wars, where they say,
No.
right, pick a favorite episode of Star Wars media, whether it could be a film, a TV series, an animated series. And we sort of like, you know, it was really weird because we were both on the same wavelength for thinking and stuff like that. And we both went on each other's channels and just chatted Star Wars. But
Okay.
they are brilliant, and I think they're you know they're worth a sub as well. They're very genuine guys, and you know their collections. Adam, bless him, his collection is growing. I mean, he's only been collecting a couple of years or a few years. So, but Martin, what a collection he has, vintage collection. Figures and stuff like that, and he's doing a series called Making the Grade, where he gets all the original Kenner 96 figures and he sort of like buys them graded and stuff like that. And so he's got all, you know, I think the last 17 to get, I think. So
Oh, nice.
expensive, but yeah, no, they're great
Yeah, no,
guys. They're
those get
absolutely great
extended.
guys, and they're definitely worth a sub as well. So, and then my friend Mark Boba Hicks as well, who I do toy photography showcase with. He's worth a follow because he does some great natural toy photography as well. So yeah.
I'm going to be bugging him to come color some Boba Fett with me. So
Yeah, you like him. You like him. He's so easy to talk to, and yeah, well, what a great guy.
all right, let me double check one more. Oh, there we go. I don't think I. So Mint with Card is a fan. So, and really
Thank
quick,
you.
yes, Give
Thank
It
you.
Up was in the Kingsman movie. So, which was an amazingly ridiculous scene, which was a fun use of the song. So, highly recommend. And then Yeah, and that's
No,
we'll
thank you.
end with that. Thank you everyone in chat, and thank you Stu.
No,
Um,
it's a pleasure. Been a
we'll be
pleasure.
doing this again, and once I get set up, we'll be able to go until we fall apart. So not when the phone is like, "Bitch, we about to die." So really quickly for the outro, I'll just stick our drunken walrus man up there.
Look at that. Wow,
Everyone,
classic.
don't forget to
Classic.
like, go subscribe to Stu, and
Thank you.
I will see you tomorrow morning with Andrew from Gatey's Toys. And really
Awesome
quick,
stuff.
Stu, do you have anything in the next 4 days? Or
Yes,
7
I
days?
do. I do. Tomorrow, I'm starting another quiz.
Ooh,
It's called Sunday Night. No, the pub quiz. Sunday Night Pub Quiz live from the Thistle Do, and I'm going to be doing that with a co-host called Zoe T. Bless her. And I've done Star Wars quizzes and movie quizzes over the last couple of years. And Alison, you were part of that Star Wars quiz.
I
I thought you
was.
were quite knowledgeable, to be honest with you, after tonight's chat. But then seeing you in the quiz,
Yeah,
not so.
no. Well,
There you go.
unfortunately, the quiz was more of the new stuff, which we kind of covered. A lot of it
Oh,
was
okay.
Mandalorian, which wasn't my favorite, so I haven't rewatched it a
Okay,
ton of
fair enough.
times.
Fair
So,
enough. Well,
but I
well,
did.
listen, you are welcome on the channel anytime. You're welcome on my channel anytime and stuff like
But
that.
you
So
gave me the
yeah.
opportunity to be like, they're on Dantooine. Yeah, right there on Dantooine. So I got one of my I got to do one of my faux British carryisms. So
You did, bless you.
it was fun. And again, as soon as you said we're doing that, I'm like, I'm in. I'm gonna suck at it, but I'm in. So
Well, you did better than Oz. Let's put it that way.
I
Nostradamus stories.
yeah. Well, yeah. Again, like Oz has a really specific time frame. That's the problem with Star Wars is there's so much of it now that there's no way to really know most of it unless Star Wars is your whole life. So
Yeah. No, fair play. Fair play.
I'll do better next year whenever I join and you have all the Last Jedi questions.
Oh God, no, I can't. You'll be the only one doing it if I did that. Wowzers! Ugh. You'd win. You'd be all right.
And on that note, we'll see you next time, y'all. Thank you
Yeah.
so
Thank you.
much.
No worries.